So okay, so you worked with that group for a while.
I also worked with Danny Arnold Productions.
Okay.
They did Barney Miller.
Oh, okay. All right. All
That
right.
was an interesting time. That was during the Hillside Strangler. I don't know if you ever heard
Oh no,
about that,
I certainly have.
the
It's
Hillside
I
Strangler.
got the trading card over there somewhere.
So that was happening. Those particular studios were on Vine Street in
Yeah,
Hollywood,
yeah,
ABC Vine, and we were terrified.
yeah.
We had to go to work.
I can
We'd
imagine.
work late, come out at night. So Danny Arnold went to Tiffany's. He got sterling silver whistles that were huge for us to wear around our necks
Uh huh.
with our initials on them. And we were to wear them when we left the building at night and to always go in groups to our cars.
Yeah.
So I still have that whistle, and I wish I could
That's
think
your
of
Hillside Strangler
I know,
official
I wish
whistle.
I could think of it as a more,
Yeah. Did you
pleasant
tell them that in
memory.
Texas they do that differently? They give you a gun,
No.
or at least mace or something. Okay, so then didn't you do? I seem to recall a stint maybe with like children's television or
Yes.
something like that.
Yeah, I ended up working as an assistant to two different presidents of CBS.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was my highest assistant achievement. I really didn't have any goals beyond that. I'm not an actor. I don't want to direct. And my boss, who was president of the time, he
Right.
called me into his office. Is there something else you want to do? Do you want to move up? And I knew so many people in executive positions that had to take home 20 scripts on Friday nights to read,
Well,
and
they had no-
it was a stressful
personal
job being
life,
an
yeah.
executive. And also, they weren't necessarily that secure,
Right.
in their jobs. So I thought if I'm always an assistant, I can probably find
Yeah.
a job to keep me going. And plus,
Sure.
it was fun.
No,
I loved that kind
That
of
makes
work.
sense. No, that makes
Yeah.
that
So
makes sense.
so I worked for two CBS presidents, and then I had a previous boss at CBS that was going to Warner Brothers,
Right.
and so I went with him. He asked me if I would go with him to Warner Brothers, and I did. And then he left to go to HBO, and there was a job opening back at CBS in the children's programming department to
Okay.
work for the head of the department. And I ended up getting that job. So I was coordinator of CBS Saturday morning kids programs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I had a very varied
That's great.
experience in LA.
Well, as a boomer, or barely a year in, I think I'm a year shy of a boomer, but I remember, what was it, 5 to 7 channels on the TV, and
Yep.
and that was it. And Saturday morning was golden. I mean, that was get up as early as you can, eat your Fruit Loops, watch all your cartoons, and you were the person that made that happen for me. So appreciate that.
Oh, okay.
And millions and millions of other kids too. So that was great. I
That's the
appreciate it.
job I worked probably the longest hours,
long-
but didn't matter.
Yeah.
I loved that we were doing the Disney animated shows on CBS at that time. This was before Disney
Oh, okay.
had their own channel for kids.
yeah.
So CBS was actually broadcasting
Okay.
some of their product. And I remember working until 9 or 10 at night, and some executive would call from Disney and, "What are you still doing there, Carol?" And I said, "I had a question for your boss." And I said, "Well, she's gone, and well, maybe I can help you."
So Mickey Mouse Club, was that on CBS?
No.
Okay.
No.
I was curious.
So I got a lot of good feedback from the Disney people because I worked late and I could usually answer their questions.
Oh, okay.
So that made me feel good.
You were what they call a solution person,
Maybe.
as
I'm
opposed
not sure.
to like a problem person like I am. No, I get it. Well, that's a very. What would you say was the pinnacle of your career and time in California? Like, what was the highest point? I understand as we go through our careers and we hit that kind of hump, and then we're on glide slope to retirement kind of deal. So for you, what was like the high point?
The high point, I'll have to say, was the Carol Burnett show.
Was it? Okay.
But another area of entertainment I loved was Broadway.
Oh.
Live Broadway. Well, obviously, I didn't live in New York.
Yeah.
But Disney started the live Broadway shows. They're using their
Oh, okay.
product, okay? Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
Lion King.
Yeah.
So other studios wanted to join in the live production.
Got it.
So my boss, a previous boss from CBS and the one that I went to Warner Brothers with originally, was starting up the Broadway division at Warner Brothers. Now, I had gone back to college at age 50 to study music. And I'd gone 3 years, and I got a call from him, and he said, would you come work with me at Warner Brothers? We're going to have a live Broadway division. And I'm like, oh, of course. And he said, because of your music background, I think, you'd be valuable in this position. So I did. I went back. We were also doing television, movies, and miniseries.
Yeah.
And live Broadway.
Wow.
But TV, movies, and miniseries were sort of on their way out. Mm-hmm. And Hallmark was picking up that area.
Yeah.
They started doing more TV.
That was the Meredith Baxter Burney channel. Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
So you said you went back to college for music. What was that about? Where'd you go and what were you pursuing?
I went back. I wasn't pursuing a degree. I was pursuing knowledge and experience in music.
You're lucky to find that in college anymore.
I wanted to teach adult piano.
I got you.
And
so was it music instruction?
Yeah, I was on the music major track.
Okay, gotcha.
So I had to do live performances. I had to learn conducting, harmony, history, everything a music major has to learn. Wow. I had to take those classes, and I didn't have to, but I wanted to, and I did very well in school.
Well,
it's
no
like,
doubt.
Now why didn't I do this well when I was 18? Because I think being older, I had such respect for the professors.
Well, yeah, and you're at a different place in your life, and you can apply you can apply discipline you didn't have before.
Exactly, and I appreciated the efforts of my teachers.
Yeah.
I appreciated them. So it was during that time I'd finished up 3 years at Pasadena City College, which is a feeder school into USC School of Music. A lot of their people that take the music at Pasadena City College end up going to Eastman School of Music, Curtis Institute of Music, USC, UCLA. So I was fabulous professors and a very demanding program.
Good.
But it taught me a lot. And subsequently, I started teaching adults and even children. And my boss at Warner Brothers said, I want you to teach piano in addition to work for me. So always feel free, if you want to leave. And
I was going to say, now you have a bevy of noteworthy and, significant people, let's say, not that you're not, but who have kids who they may want to have you teach.
Well, mostly I wanted to teach adults. That was because
kids, it could be a 15-year-old or something, right?
Yeah, so I ended up some kids, and they were all from the same school. There was a Catholic school near one of my best friends, his wife, and they had a child that wanted to learn piano. So I started teaching him. Well, he got pretty good. I would say he's gifted. And he ended up being a music major, musical theater major, and doing very well. So he'd go to school and play songs that I had taught him, and they wanted to learn. His friends wanted to learn. Yeah. So I ended up with like 5 or 6 of these kids, all in the same age range, 11, 12. I loved it. I loved teaching them, even though I thought I just wanted to teach adults.
Well, and I could tell because you were almost aspiring to do that here when you moved back to San Antonio as well, right?
I know, that just never happened.
It never happened. You still got the baby grand in your living room there.
Yeah.
Well, this is great stuff. I think it's golden. It's great to capture this stuff because there's not many people doing this these days. And back, like you were saying, back in the day, there was no internet and no computers, so there was no record.
Also, back in the day, there were only 3 networks.
Only 3 major networks.
Major networks.
Yeah,
there were affiliates and local
and
programmers.
And now, sometimes I think some of the dysfunction we see in society today is because we are so overwhelmed with information and content. Because back then, if you only had 3 channels and so many hours a day, right? Because I remember the Indian or the color pattern after the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever, or Star Spangled Banner, that they had to compress meaningful material in a short amount of time.
Right.
And I was talking to somebody the other day, and especially with the news. You remember the news used to be the news. It was like you got what happened. Train wrecked, this person did this, whatever.
Right.
There was no agenda, nothing like that.
The screen wasn't split into,
you didn't have a
segments.
chyron at the bottom. And so what happened was, I think in CNN, the advent of cable news, they get all the news out in 30 minutes or an hour. Then what do you talk about? And that's when the mischief starts happening with regards to, political things and cultural things and all that.
It's completely different now.
It's completely different. I read a story the other day that millennials or most people in their 20s get their news from Twitter or, the internet or something. They don't go to traditional, news sources.
And you have to remember that for someone like me that most people started getting, I think, back then, TVs in their homes
Yeah.
in the 50s.
Yeah.
And TV was magical. It was magical. All we had before that was playing records, the radio. That's it. You know, otherwise you're outside playing or doing your
You
homework.
had to invent your own reality.
And so
your-
that
yeah,
was
yeah.
magical. Well, how do they do that in that TV screen?
Yeah.
Well, now there's nothing magical anymore. You can do anything.
Look
on
what we're doing here.
Exactly.
I'm doing an interview, and it's going to look like a news broadcast when I'm done because of all the software. But that's the good side of it is creative people who could maybe get overlooked by the industry now have a venue or an outlet to
Exactly.
go look at, like Joe. I'm not trying to be like him, but like Joe Rogan, somebody like that,
Right.
who can sit for 3 hours, and now people are clamoring to be on his show, and he's just dark guy in a corner talking, and that's it. But then on the other extreme, you have so much coloration of society vis-a-vis the media they consume, and that's tough because there's, now you're questioning truth, right? And what's truth? And the truth is where you switch the channel, and your biases are confirmed by what you watch, and that's the bad part about it. I remember on the ship we used to get our news through teletype. And in military communications, you're limited on what you can type because it eats up resources that need to be used for military stuff, right?
Right.
So we would get a teletype feed from UPI. Remember UPI?
Yep.
United Press International. Yep. Reuters.
Yep.
And there was one other one. I can't remember. The name slips me now. AP or something like that. But anyway.
Yeah, Associated Press.
Yeah, we would get these really, and it was truly news. I mean, when I watch news now, and I think how much of this is actually news versus commentary or opinion or whatever. Back then, it was like plane crashed in Kentucky, 10 people killed. It was like that. It was like what happened, and that was it.
Right.
Or even good stuff like this person elected to this or whatever. There was no, tell the same story 3 different ways. Nothing like that. It was just what happened, and that was it. And I kind of miss those days. But then again. So, Carol, tell me about the top three people you enjoyed meeting.
Okay. So one was a surprise, and that was the Carpenters.
Like Karen Carpenter?
Karen Carpenter and Richard Carpenter.
Okay.
And of course, when I'm in college, I'm listening to their music.
Yeah.
Right. So anyway, I just love them. All my friends love them. And so when I started working on the Carol Burnett show, the music writers knew that I was a fangirl of the Carpenters, and they came to the office to meet with the music writers, and the music writers brought them into my desk to meet me. And I remember looking up and going, oh, it's Karen and Richard.
It's the Carpenters.
And I'm not really starstruck over actors. I was never like, oh, Gaga, that's a famous person,
Yeah.
But if somebody's a musician, can get up on a stage, play an instrument, sing, oh my gosh, those are the people I'm a fan, mostly of. So the other one was one of the other ones was Ringo Starr.
Oh,
Ringo's now. Okay, I'm a child of the Beatles. Okay.
Was he doing the train engine thing, or remember that?
No, the Beatles had broken up by this time, 1975.
Okay, this is before the train engine thing. Yeah.
This is 1975, but still, you say the Beatles,
Absolutely,
you still scream, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody knew their music. So I was working on the Smothers Brothers show, which was a musical variety show, and he was a guest. And there had been script changes to his script. So I was called up to the control booth and said, Carol, we've made some changes to Ringo's script. We need you to take him to his dressing room and tell him where his changes are. Well, already I'm like, I'm going to be talking to a Beatle? Is this even possible? That I'm going to be talking to a Beatle? So I go knock on his dressing room door, and he's all alone in there. And he opens the door.
Don't tell me anymore, Carol. I don't want to know.
No. Don't worry. And there was even a sofa involved, but don't worry. So he opens the door, and he says, yes, love. And I'm like, oh, my God. And we didn't have cell phones. I couldn't call my friends.
Yeah.
So, oh, my God. So I said, okay, I have script changes for you. And he goes, come here, love. Sit down on the sofa with me. So I'm sitting on the sofa with Ringo Starr, trying to not shake as I show him where his new script cues are. Okay, so that one, I just love that. I'm sorry, microphone.
That's okay. They
I'm
don't bite.
I'm not used to doing this. So anyway, and then who was the other? Oh, okay. So also in college, Elton John. Okay?
Wow.
Elton John.
What was that situation? How did you run across? I could see Ringo Starr because he acted, but how did you?
This fast forward to the Broadway years.
Oh, okay. Say no more.
Okay, so we were doing a Broadway show.
Yeah.
He was hired to do the music, and he'd been writing some of the music. He was living in Atlanta, had a little studio where he send us, tapes, rough cuts.
Yeah.
And so it came time, this show was going forward, and we were going to have a meeting in the I think it was the Beverly Hilton Hotel, to discuss finance, music, sets, a lot of things that you have to take into consideration. Yeah. Maybe 30 people at the meeting.
Right.
So I meet my boss there, and the script writer for our Broadway show was the one that did Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
And she ran into me in the ladies' room, and she said, "Have you ever met Elton before?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Okay, let me just tell you that I'm just going to warn you that
here it comes.
He likes to know everybody in the room. He likes to know everybody in the room when he's going to have a meeting. Well, obviously, I've never met him, but hopefully somebody will introduce me, and that I work for the
who's this person?
I work for the head of Warner Brothers that's doing the Broadway shows. So I went in and I told my boss what she had said, and he goes, "Okay." He goes, "Well, just stand here with me, and when he comes in, I'll introduce you." So that happened. He comes
awesome.
in with the dog and his partner. At the time, I don't think they'd married yet, but anyway, he came in.
What kind of dog was it?
I don't remember.
Was it a little big?
I don't know.
Was it like a purse foo-foo dog?
I think I was too nervous to even.
Or was it like on a leash dog kind of dog?
It was on a leash kind of dog.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So you get to meet him.
Because see, it's not just Elton John. It's my college years come back to me.
Okay.
Who knew? If you had told me when I'm in that dorm room listening to your
You're going to meet Elton John one day and his dog.
Yeah, like I'm going to be in a meeting with Elton John. Yeah, sure, right. So he introduced me, and then we started the meeting. And it was time for the meeting to be over.
Yeah.
And I remember leaning over to get my sunglasses and my keys out of my purse, and I see his track shoes there standing there, and he was wearing a sweatsuit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, why is he standing right there? Because there's nobody else around. And I look up, and he says, "Carol, I just want to say it was a pleasure to meet you." He remembered my name through this whole meeting. And why? He came up to me because I guess I was the only stranger in the room. Yeah. But that really made a big impression on me because he remembered my name.
Now, who gave him your name?
My boss. When
Elton,
we had this meeting. I'm sorry, I didn't make that clear. Our meeting was in a big ballroom.
I gotcha.
So my boss and I stood literally at the door. Yeah. So when Elton came in, my boss could say, "Elton, I want you to meet," because he knew my boss.
Yeah.
So he said, because he was doing the show, he was producing the show. So he said, "I want you to meet my assistant." But the fact that we went the whole meeting and he remembered my name.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Carol, it's been great. We need to do a part 2 because I think there's a lot I'd like to talk about, like from when you were little up until the time you departed for California, because I think you had an interesting life, as my dad and my aunt did, because my grandfather was military, and you guys moved around the world quite a bit.
Yep.
And I'm sure there's a lot to talk about there too.
I would love to.
With all due reverence to rest in peace my grandparents and my dad and all that. So we got to get all that too.
And I am so proud of being an Army brat. I cannot tell you.
Well, and
I wouldn't have traded that life for anything.
And I think that probably helped you later in life too, as it often does with military brats, as they were, as they have a level of
adjustment, quick
adjustment. They're a little more, a little more grounded, I guess. From being traumatized by being moved around and all that. I know I certainly became more callous to the world after I retired. So anyway, this interview wasn't about me; it's about you. And thank you so much.